I was given the mission of relating the history of Troop 205 for the past 75 years. That is a pretty tall order. I don't know too much about the first 48, but I know everything about the last 27 years. The slides you are about to see represent only the last third of our history, but I still feel like I have created the mother of all slideshows. That being the case, I think we better get going. To a great extent, the history of the troop is a story of the things we've done, the places we've been, and some of the outstanding people that have been with us. Foremost among those from 1964 until 1988 has been Bob White. For those of you who spent any time at all with the troop during those years, this right here is a pretty familiar scene. Bob has driven our 4 troop buses and hundreds of scouts over thousands of miles to California, Alaska, Florida, New Mexico, and New York. What follows now are a little review of some of these places and activities and some of the people that we have known over the years. This is a shot of one of our first trips to Philmont. Used to take the train, also took a plane for a couple of years, and we've taken a total of 9 trips to Philmont since 1966. There's a typical shakedown scene there from 1968. Here's a shot of the young Dave Anderson checking out his pack. I think he actually uses the same pack now. Was out there at Philmont in 1990. Some of our people just having climbed Mount Baldy. Some of you might recognize Dr. Ray Swan there on the left, Dr. Howard Johnson, the dentist, there on the right. Our troop was one of the first groups to have a female ranger out at Philmont in 1978. That's Sue McCoy from Oklahoma City there on the left with the yellow t-shirt. Here we have the young Scott Boven out at Philmont, 68. Here we have Steve Bice, again probably Philmont, 1968. And last time we visited the Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs, checked out a B-52. Many models of which are about to see some action in the Persian Gulf. Here we are at the Air Force Academy Chapel in Colorado Springs. Typical scene there at Philmont, hiking over a little stream. These are some shots from our last trip, Philmont 90. There's Sam Stone about to negotiate that particular bridge. Another typical Philmont scene right there. Last couple times out there, we've been through what they call the challenge. Here we are about to stuff Max Brewer through that tire right there as part of one of their routines. There's Max's feet going through the rest of the tire. Another little challenge right there, had to do certain things, walking on those boards, picking up pine cones and so on. Pretty good little challenge. Here we are having to swing out onto these discs via a rope. So it's a pretty vigorous week and a half that we spend out there. This is the challenge here was where we had to get all of our people up on top of this wall right here, which is a good challenge when you come to the last individual. Here's a group doing little trail construction work. All the trails out there at Philmont are actually constructed and maintained by the scouts who are out there themselves. And your typical Philmont overview there, you can see Mount Baldy in the distance, which our scouts have climbed many, many times over the past 27 years. Another place we've been to 3 times is the Matagamon Canoe High Adventure Base in Maine. We are going there again the summer of 1992. It is an outstanding canoeing experience. We would certainly encourage all of our people who are into good wilderness high adventure type activities to sign up for this. You have some excellent whitewater canoeing, some outstanding scenery. I tell you, it makes the Boundary Waters area in northern Minnesota look like a bathtub by comparison. I heard some people speaking a few weeks ago about how they thought they'd prefer to go to Disney World as opposed to Matagamon. Doesn't sound too good to me. I think you ought to pass up Disney World, even though it's a great place, and take in the Matagamon experience. Good fishing there, too. Here we have Bob McLean doing a little casting, and afterwards he's able to enjoy a good fish dinner. I hope he did cook that before he started chowing down. Also, the place is just like paradise in terms of waterfalls and water pools and so on. Here we just canoed to a spot, and we're enjoying a little R&R riverside there. Spot here where we had to get out and walk our canoes through some shallow water for a couple miles. Again, our guys just thrived on it. They were crying out for more just about the whole time. Another one of the highlights of the Matagamon trip one year was the climb up Mount Katahdin. It was not quite as challenging as you see here, but just about. There was some hand-over-hand stuff, but once you get to the top of Mount Katahdin, which is the highest in Maine, you get an outstanding view, as you can see here. We started out about 5 o'clock in the morning way down at that first lake that you see there in the foreground. And this is our assault group up here. This would be 1974 when we climbed that particular mountain. Another type of trip that we've been on many times is sailing to the Bahamas, leaving from Fort Lauderdale or Miami, and get on board these big boats here. One time we had a boat that was 65 feet long, and it's a pretty neat experience. For a week, usually spring vacation, we're out there sailing around on our own, taking care of our own boat. Plenty of time to relax, catch some rays, try to get cancer, read, do some diving, check for pirates and so on. One of our underwater shots here when we're either scubaing or snorkeling in the beautiful coral reefs. Bob's catching a couple winks right there in the sun. And here's one of our guys diving off into what's called the Blue Hole. Nice clear water throughout the Bahamas. And if we're lucky, we even catch a few lobster. Here's Jeff Harper bringing in the boatload of lobster he's just speared. And here's one of our guides on board the boat ripping this lobster apart. Looks pretty delicious there. Here we have the group lined up, ready to go to Jamboree 73 out in Idaho. And there's a bus that we had just prior to the current one. Heading out toward the west, we cruised across the northern part of the U.S. to Idaho. Saw some outstanding mountain scenery, climbed a couple mountains on the way. Tom Crabel indicates that no matter where the troop goes, we are always climbing mountains. So we go on canoe trips like in northern Minnesota, we still find a mountain to climb. And here we are at the Jamboree site out in Idaho. That's the distant shot of the huge campground. About 25,000 scouts were camped out there. Close-up of where our site was located. And that's the big Jamboree swimming hole, which is the most crowded most crowded swimming hole we ever encountered. Masses and masses of people. We had to take turns going in there. Basically, we only got one chance to swim the whole week because they had to cycle everybody through. Here's the senior staff out there in 73 putting on the I'm Glad I Am a Boy Scout skit, which I think some of you just saw the 1991 version of. And that's what they looked like in 73 when they put on that routine. Another trip that we've grown to know and to love is rubber rafting the Wolf River in Wisconsin. And of course, we always go with Herb's rubber rafts. You can see Herb there displays his name pretty prominently. And usually get some good whitewater up there on the Wolf River. And we've been there several times, probably be going again another couple years. There's also a big pile of rocks out in the woods deposited by glaciers, which are kind of neat to crawl around in, good tunnels and caves and things like that. Just hope the rocks don't collapse. This is the year we drove the Troop 205 bus out to Colorado for skiing at Winter Park. This is December 1991. 3 nights in a row, we had a foot of powder each night. As you can see, the bus is getting pretty well loaded up there. And here's some of the guys getting ready to ski at Winter Park. We went back there again, of course, just this past December. Outstanding scenery out there, good mountain scenes. It's a lot like Timber Ridge or Bittersweet, as I'm sure you can tell. These are a few scenes from our trip out there in December of this year. We did go by train this time, which is better than driving the bus out there. Picked up the train at the Kalamazoo Amtrak station, took it down to Chicago. Then we got on board a great big double-decker train, the California Zephyr, and rode that fellow from Chicago all the way to Winter Park. And here we are unloading at Winter Park right there. This is the shuttle bus. It took us to and from the slopes quite a bit, and we just thought we'd show you some of the outstanding scenery you get out there at Winter Park on a nice sunny day. We had clear blue sky for 5 straight days, pretty good snow, and that's one of the big lodges up there in the mountains that we would visit regularly, have lunch there and so on. Here's some of the guys coming in for a hot cocoa break in the morning. And we even had races, one condo versus another. We had a total of 4 condos out there this year, 6 people each. And generally we had a real good time. We're planning another trip out there, probably to Snowmass this coming December. So if any of you are interested in that, why, express your interest, and we'll probably be taking sign-up sometime in the spring. And you get some good-looking countryside like you see there. All in all, it's a great ski vacation. Another trip we took one time was down to the Land Between the Lakes area in Tennessee and Kentucky. We rented some sailboats like this, about 6 people per sailboat. Did some sailing for about a week. It's kind of like Philmont or Matagamon, except you go around by sailboat. And there's some of the people in the crew that we had. Another place you probably recognize is North Point out on Lake Michigan, which we have visited many, many times over the years. It's one of our favorite campsites right on Lake Michigan, overlooking the big lake. Here we have the usual hot dog contest going on Saturday afternoon if the weather's pretty good. And of course we've also visited Disney World in Florida many, many times, not just Disney World, but a lot of other sites in Florida as well. Last time we were there was just about a year ago, and we're planning again to go in '92. The fact is we already have our Disney World reservations. We usually spend a couple days in the Atlantic Ocean, as you can see here, enjoying some of the sand and the surf. No good trip to Florida is complete without some good beach time. And here's Dave Anderson just coming in from some body surfing. He can spend hours and hours out there. And we usually make a visit to the Kennedy Space Center, take in some of the rockets. Usually go on a tour of the place. There's the Saturn rocket, the type that launched the craft that went to the moon. And of course we usually make the pilgrimage to Ron John's, which is the largest beachwear store in the world. And no trip to Florida is complete without a pilgrimage to Ron John's, where you can pick up a t-shirt or whatever. And a few shots from Disney World here. We usually make about a week stay there. Staying at Fort Wilderness. Usually get greeted by one of the characters down there, such as one of the 3 little pigs right here. Also visit some of the water amusement areas, such as you just see displayed there. Good inner tube rides and so on, going around the place. Usually make a visit a day or two to the Magic Kingdom, check out some of the things there, take a ride on Captain Nemo's ship, the Nautilus. Usually several trips through the haunted house there at Disneyland World. Also visit Epcot. There's a scene from the Chinese pavilion there, some of the other pavilions that offer some really outstanding, interesting displays. Big shot of Spaceship Earth there. And one thing that was new last time we visited was the Disney MGM Studios, where you can get to see a lot of the movie production facilities, and they take you on some really good tours. Here's a shot of the New York City skyline. Looks like the Empire State Building in the background there, but it's only about 25 feet high. And here's an Indiana Jones scene, reenactment fair going on here with some trucks burning up and exploding. And here's our current Scoutmaster, Dave Dunfield, looking forward to a visit to Typhoon Lagoon, which is the brand new water amusement area they have there. Great big swimming pool with a huge wave machine at the end. Inner tube type affair that you can take all the way around the park. And as I said, they make a huge wave type thing from one end of this pool to the other. You could almost surf in the thing. And of course, we've also taken in the past few years 4 complete trips to Europe. We're going to be going again this coming summer, 1991. We usually rent some VW vans like you see here and camp throughout the continent for 4 weeks. Just a few shots here of some of the things that we have seen and will be seeing. Seen from Venice right there, seen from Munich, Germany, and usually a little R&R on the Italian Riviera. There's the group from 1980. And some of the outstanding mountain scenery that we'll be taking in the Alps. Another trip we made one year was to rubber raft the Chattooga River down in Georgia. This is the river where the film Deliverance was filmed a few years ago. Fact is, we showed that film to the guys the night before we went on the river, and it was a pretty good stretch of rubber rafting. Also some good waterfalls that we could stop and play around in. Grand Tour West, we've taken several of these. One back in '69, one in '77. Most recent one was 1987. So we thought we'd show you a few scenes from those. This is the 1969 group when we borrowed 2 Pontiac station wagons from Jim Gilmore. And these are the 16 guys we took out there then. Seen from the Grand Canyon, looks like a storm going on in the other canyon rim there. Getting a lot of outstanding shots in the Grand Canyon. There's the canyon itself. 1977 we were there. Well, we did do some rafting, which you'll see a few scenes of shortly. There's a shot of one of our former scouts, Steve Bice, who was killed in a very tragic accident back in 1969. Some of you might remember the fence around the dining hall at Rotokawan that was financed by the troop. It is maintained by the troop, and it is put there in honor of Steve Bice, and we have done that for over 20 years now. Another shot from the canyon. We're down at the Colorado River level here, and we're going to do some rafting. This is the type of raft that we've used a couple trips down there. Those are Georgie's rafts in the distance. We used Georgie's in 1987, but this is actually a 1977 shot here. We were loading up at that point, and I noticed in the distance this elderly woman clad in leopard skin outfit maneuvering her rafts around. And she was a pretty interesting character, so I took this shot. And if you look closely, you can see Georgie in the leopard outfit there to the right. But I didn't really know about her at this point. In the next 10 years, I learned all about her, and when we went in 87, we made sure that we went with Georgie, and she showed us a pretty good time in the river. Here we are loading up some of the rafts, and here's some of the rapids we go through. Great time down there. We're planning to raft the Colorado River again, probably in 1993 when we take our next trip out there. And this time we plan to be able to do the entire river if one wants to. Nighttime, you just lay out a sheet and a ground cloth there on the side of the river and sleep right there. It's pretty warm. You don't really need a sleeping bag. And if we're lucky, we find some good mud flats type area where if it's nice and warm, you can do some wallowing like the guys here are doing in 77. Looks like they're having a pretty great time. We did some wallowing this last time, but it was kind of cool, and it wasn't, a good hot wallow like we enjoyed back in 1977. Here's Batty Wilson, the younger brother of Tom Wilson, saying, "Geez, this mud is just great. You guys will love it." And there we are crashing through some more water, getting some of the mud washed off, which takes several days. All in all, why, it's a great time in the Colorado River. It's a whole nother world down there, and I would really recommend that you sign on board for that trip. You don't have to go on the whole 3-week trip out west. We had 20 people last time that just flew out or drove out for the rafting experience on the Colorado River. This is a shot from our 1969 Grand Tour West. We're there in the Tetons. Some of you might recognize some characters there that go way back. And this is the 1971 trip to the Tetons. That was the year that we got to see Richard Nixon when he came through by boat touring the park down there. And another Teton shot there. Oops, wonder who that guy is on horseback. Here we have the 1977 group going west. We're there in Monument Valley, which is a pretty spectacular scene. This is some mountain we climbed that year on that 77 trip. We're always climbing mountains. And a few shots from summer camp at Rotokawan. And nobody can really go on one of the big trips, Matagamon, Filma, rubber rafting the Colorado, Bahamas, things like that, unless you have spent some time learning some of the basics at Rotokawan. And we'll be going there again this coming summer, the very tail end of July, the beginning of August. There's a lot of activities out there, including canoeing, rowboating. Here's the young Tex as an archer. And years past, we used to have, toward the 4th of July, the Battle of Bunker Hill. And they get lined up on two sides like this and basically go at it with water for a while. Then they start throwing flour around, and it gets pretty messy. Another one of our favorite spots to visit is South Manitowoc out in Lake Michigan. We have been there probably countless times. It is a really neat place, featuring a lot of things, including a lighthouse. And this is the boat that takes us over right there. You got a seagull colony there. You've got giant dunes. We usually have a good time walking around the beach to one of the neat attractions, which is the shipwreck of the Francisco Morazan, which went ashore in 1960-61. And we usually check that out. Here are a couple of the guys last time built a raft, pretending they were like Huck Finn or Tom Sawyer. Another shot from going around. Here's Tom Crabeel taking a little R&R there on the beach. reading a book. Make sure you ask him, too, about that red hat he's wearing. He can tell some stories about that tonight. Here's some of the guys checking out some of the vehicles that were abandoned there. Usually some pretty good campfire time on the beach, killer volleyball game or two. Checking out the cliffs on the backside, about 300 feet high over the lake. Usually have a trip up to the top of the lighthouse there on the island. Get some pretty good views of what goes on. Excellent sunrise, sunset scenes on the island. Good swimming. All in all, it's a really good time. We'll probably be going back there again to South Manitou another year or two. So make sure you sign up for that trip. And there's sunset over South Manitou Island. Another big trip we would like to push is the family camp at Silver Lake in June. This year it's going to be June 14th to the 16th. You will find all the information about family camp, all the activities like water skiing and sailboating and power volleyball and so on, all contained in a handout which is available tonight or also in your newsletter. It's a little different this year. Coming up, we're going to be staying at the Jellystone Park just down the road from the state park. And we do need to get people signed up earlier this year. So make sure that you follow the directions in the newsletter and get yourself signed up if you want to go by April 8th. We got to have your name and your money and the sign-up form by April 8th. Otherwise, we can't guarantee that you can be a part of family camp this year. But it's a good time. Here's a group hiking out to Lake Michigan to enjoy the campfire on Saturday night. Campfire usually comes complete with a good number of songs, skits. There we are in a balloon blowing contest, doing a limbo contest right here. We're about to have the root beer chugging contest. All sorts of good times. Sunset over Lake Michigan and your basic overview shot. So again, read your newsletter and get yourself signed up. Do some dune scootering usually on Sunday morning too. A few shots from one of our last winter camps when we had some first aid demonstrations and competition going on. You can see some of the first aid cases on display right there. Ooh, this guy's in pretty rough shape, as you can see. I don't know if first aid could deal with his problem. And here's Morgan leading the song at the last winter camp. Jeff Ray's putting out some sandwiches. And it looks like we got some pancakes being prepared right there. Some of the guys are enjoying their meals. And looks like something about to get underway right there. A few character shots. As I said, we've had a lot of outstanding people in the troop over the years, and just want to briefly spin through some of the outstanding people that we have known in this organization for at least the past 27 years. There's a shot of Knot Man right there. This pretty unique shot here. You can ask some of the older guys how this shot came about. And overview of one of our older buses with a crew on board. And here's Randy Butler taking a snooze up on top of Mount Baldy. Dave Woodstra snoozing going across Lake Michigan. Here's Bill Norton, alias Penny Piglet, soaping this pot. Penny's just in the Persian Gulf right now with one of our infantry divisions. And here's Fred Colgren, an old scouter, having a frozen chocolate-covered banana there. Jim Folk on one of our canoe trips years ago. Bill Kelly is now a TV broadcaster out in Nebraska, fixing dessert at Matagamon. Willie at the wheel. Bill Millum ready for bugs and mosquitoes and nasty things in Matagamon. Oh, another shot of somebody I know there. This is kind of a unique shot here. Here's Kent Powley on one of our western trips. Married about a year ago, just had a kid. He's getting ready to be a doctor after 10 years of medical training in Detroit. Kelly Martin having a good time in the Bahamas. Some of our guys out west in 69. There's the young Keith Muma, dead center there. Some of our guys on the Tetons trip. We rented a Ryder truck that year. That's why we bought our own van and truck eventually, to save a little money rather than paying the rental fee. Some of the guys on one of our bike hikes out to Gull Lake. These guys look pretty happy going across Lake Michigan. Disaster on the 69 trip out west when we left the radiator cap off the engine. And so overall, it's been a pretty good time in Troop 205 for the past 75 years. And we certainly hope that the next 75 are going to be just as fun, entertaining, productive, and useful as the last 75.